So this is another video. Uh, this time it's going to be Peugeot 406 versus Peugeot 407. Um, the previous one I did was 406 versus 508. Okay, so and also I know a lot of people will be interested on this particular one, considering uh, quite a number of people that always want to know if they should buy either a 406 or 407. Like I said earlier, this is not about which one is better, but at least from here, you can always know which of them that you prefer based on the strength of both vehicles. You know, by what I mean is if this one is wins on this particular aspect of the car, it means the other it has advantage, or it has an edge on the other vehicle in that regard. That's what I mean. So okay, so number one, yeah, the 406 is older. Um, predecessor production ended 2004. Then as in general, apart from the ones that continued. The Of course, the 407 succeeded it, which is number two, succeeded 406, and the production of 407 ended in 2010. Yeah, so yeah. Now, number three, the 407 is heavier. You, you can look at it like as an advantage or disadvantage over 406. So it all depends on how you want to look at it. At least 407 is heavier, 406 is lighter. Um, Now, which among them is sportier? 406. No, 407. But the 407 is sportier. But even from the looks, you could tell easily that it was designed for sports. I'm not saying it's a sports car. I'm just saying it's designed for sports, which could also be the reason. It may not be the reason why it's heavier, but I don't know. It's designed for sports. For so many factors made them, apart from the look. Yeah, even the ground clearance, you can tell, very much lower than 406. 406 is higher. And so many things, 407 is more like a sportier version of Z9. Yes, so that's what I would say. Okay, now superior and performance suspension. Yes, Peugeot 407 wins this aspect. Peugeot 406 suspension is good, but in terms of performance, 407 has a better package suspension for sports. Especially the V6 version among them. But remember, what you are talking about is the ones with petrol engines. But even the diesel engines have a sporty suspension, variable, and the rest. So likewise, the petrol one, diesel petrol. Then even the non-V6 among the 407 models, their suspension is still better in terms of performance, better than that of 406. Okay. Now, stylish. Okay, of course, 407, it looks, yeah, it's more stylish, you know. Um, how do I describe that? I don't know, maybe look it up. In terms of, which one, maybe I could have added the two sportier stylish, they all come together. This one looks more, how do I do it? I don't know how to explain this word by stylish, even though it's obvious, but then I'm trying to find a way or maybe an example, you know. So 406. I don't know how people are going to how people are going to take what I'm going to say now. 406 is more masculine. Yes, let me just put it this way. On the looks, 406 is more masculine, while the 407 is mixed. You know, it's sporty, it's curvy, it's stylish, it's this, that. It's a bit there, here and there. You know, so I mean, you could tell most women don't like 406 because of the look. It's a masculine very. They design it for it's everything written on it is masculinity. Both the interior, even the interior is already dated, but the exterior is not that dated, but it looks very masculine. It has a masculine touch everywhere on the exterior. But the 407 is also masculine, but it's mixed. Most women prefer 407 to 406. So I mean, it's hard. You can actually count how many 406 you pass and see women driving than 407. Um, so 407, in other words, by stylish, it means 407 will be more attractive to a modern man. People that prefer something, you know. I don't know. Take it however I want to take it anyway. So that's about it. And the one I'm talking about 407, I'm referring to especially the sedan, the saloon, station wagon. So what the comparison I'm doing is saloon and station wagon on both vehicles, 406 and 407, excluding the coupe. Coupe is a different, both cars, the coupe of 406 and 407, they are completely different animals. So I will even go there because they are like the 407 one is pure masculine, every part of it. So it didn't even make it to look beautiful. It has some kind of aggressive look, very aggressive. So all right, so more rugged and durable suspension. Yeah, 406 wins here. 406 has a rugged suspension and a durable one compared to 407. 407 is superior in terms of function. In terms of function, it's more superior than that of 406. But in terms of, okay, which one can sustain the harsh use, like most road conditions that are not that good, like the Nigerian roads, both highways and city roads that are rough. 406 will be able to sustain all those road conditions and without breaking down uh, easily. While 407 will not. It's a complex suspension system or setup. So it makes it more troublesome when you need to do repairs or when things start breaking on those components, suspension components. Like I always say, it may take you an hour to diagnose a 406 front suspension issue, and even both that one may be enough to do the diagnosis and the repair on a 406 front suspension issue. But for 407, you may take you like 8 hours or the whole day. If your care is not taking, may take more than a day to start and complete the diagnosis and the replacement or repairs or whatever that you need to sort those things out. I'm not even talking about shock absorber. I'm talking about the entire full suspension components in the front. So that's what I mean by um, well, just take it like that. If you want, maybe on a separate video, I'll go further to explain why 407 suspension tend not to last as long as that of the 406. when it's most especially when you use it on rough road, or you apply it you use it roughly. Let me just put it down. Okay. Number 8, edgeless look. Of course, like I said in the 508 comparison with 406, here 406 still wins. It's edgeless. 406 looks, no, 407 looks, it looks really good. It's not, doesn't look that dated as such yet. It still looks newer, but compared to the 406, 406 still stand out in terms of the look. It doesn't mean it's newer. It looks newer, no? I'm just saying in terms of um, it's easier to explain to a car person. You understand, people have different eyes when it comes to looking at cars, so um, then when you take your time and look at those two cars, what I'm saying, don't go and look for a rickety or patch vehicle, or the car that the factory body has gone out of shape. They've used panibited the front left and hand. You can't even tell again the normal shape of the vehicle. So I'm talking about a very clean one that everything is still intact. So you look at both vehicles, you understand. 9, expected future classic, of course, still 406. Will 407 makes it? I doubt. Probably it might. I'm thinking the 407 that might make classic could be the coupe, but it's not what we are discussing. It's not part of the vehicle we are discussing here. So, but I suspect 407 coupe might make classic. I think so. I'm not sure. Now higher reserve value. 407, 406 beats 407 here in terms of higher reserve value. It doesn't really mean much, but just for the sake of the comparison, I decided to put it here. The 406 cost higher, even though it's older. So 407 is much cheaper, even in Europe. Even in Europe, like if you go to UK now, you can get a 407 as cheap as 400, 300, 350 pounds. Very clean one, I'm not saying that's if I between 300 to 1,000 something. That's like the average price of Peugeot 407 in UK. But though it costs a little bit more in other European countries, but in UK that's the average price of 407. And excluding the coupe, tends to cost a little bit higher. But 406, I'm talking about the saloon station wagon. But the 406 still costs high. That's if you even see one, it still costs high. So likewise, the ones that are shipped into Nigeria, you still go to market, you find that 406 costs higher than the 407. However, the late 407 to like 2008 to 2010, they still cost higher than the 406. Yeah, they still cost, but other generally 407 costs lower. But once you start going up, you have to spend more than you used to acquire a 407 to get a 4. No, you spend to acquire a 406 to get a 407, or probably they will just be at the same price, depending. Okay, sportier manual transmission. Yeah, 407 wins here. For the manual, they did a good improvement on the manual transmission attached on the 2.2i injection petrol engine in 407. It's not just because they made it what's it called? They made it 6-speed manual, but they use ML MLCC, which is to me stockier than the MLT5. Is it T5 or forgotten? Or L5? I've forgotten how to mention. The manual transmission they put on that 2.2i, I'm talking about EW12J4, is sportier than the 5-speed attached on the 2.2 in 406, 2.2 injection engine in 406. Though towards late 406 production, like the 2003, 2004, they introduced that CC, the MLCC transmission, manual transmission on the 2.2 injection or 2.2 engine. So, but 5-speed anyway. So that 6-speed is sportier to drive. Likewise, the manual transmission on 407 V6 is also sportier, which is okay. We are not talking about the coupe here, so I will exclude that one because that particular one is attached only on the V6 coupe, the 6-speed manual for V6. Okay, so now for the sportier auto transmission, 407 still wins here. The V6 transmission, the V6 automatic transmission attached on the 407 is sportier. I wouldn't say more aggressive, but it's sportier in terms of having fun, I mean, for example, on the 407, you have the option to manually select your gears by yourself. So unlike the 406 where you don't have that option, so the electronics has to be the one to select the gear for you, which can misbehave sometimes or not select the particular gear you want at the time, which also do happen on the 407 automatic transmission. But at least, like I say, you now have that option to actually select it yourself, so you don't have to depend on the electrical or some computer to do the selection for you, which, like I say, sometimes when you expect it to do, you won't select. It will stay stuck in one particular gear and take the fun away. So so that 407 has that edge. In that case, I'm talking about the AMCs. It's not just the AMCs, the AL4, the 4HP20, these 3 transmissions are attached on 407, the 2 engines. So you have that option to select manually, so it makes it sporty. Fuel efficient, which one is fuel efficient among the two? 406 saloon and the station wagon or estate consume less fuel than 407 saloon and the station wagon. I mean, honestly, I am surprised that 406 won in this regard because it's a newer. 407 is meant to be an improvement of 406. Yes, 407 is meant to be an improvement of 406. So the fuel consumption was expected to be lower. At least to me, I don't know about, maybe to Peugeot, it shouldn't be, I don't know, but when you are improving on something, I believe the fuel consumption becomes a factor, since they are basically the same engines, similar engines. So they should be able to make it such a way that you're supposed to consume less to attract people to buy the newer one, at least to have it as an advantage on the older. I don't know why. Probably because the 407 is heavier, irrespective of the engine. On any of the 407, let's assume 2.0 engine on 407 compared to 2.0. 407 with 2.0 petrol engine compared to the one on the 406, similar or identical engine. the 407 still has more weight, you know. Even you see, 407 weight is so huge that even the four-cylinder, is it 1.8 or 2.0, um, or 407 with 2.0 engine has more weight than even that of the 406 V6 with 3.0 liter engine. So it's you give you an idea what I'm talking about. So all those things probably could contribute to the reason why 407 couldn't consume less than 406. Okay, so here 406 wins, but it's not like the consumption is that, the gap is that much, but it's there. You know, if you drive the two, as in I'm using equivalent engine or same engine in both vehicles with same transmission models, you still find out that the 406 will consume much less, whether it's V6, 406, V6, 407, EW10J4, 406, that of the 407. No matter which one you test drive, as in using cars are in good conditions, 406 will always consume much less. So, okay, gadgets. Yeah, 407 is newer, so it has more gadgets. It has a lot of things. 407, 406 lack, you know, like syncing your phone to to the vehicle so that you don't have to pick any phone call. If you can pick the call from your remote control behind the steering wheel, you can, you know, there's so many things. So 407 has an edge on 406 in this regard. The gadgets has a bigger screen. It has parking aid. It has sensors attached on the front on some models. Then more like standard on the rear. Maybe there could be some model that didn't come with the rear parking sensor, but I would say it's more like standard in 407. So 406 didn't have it, even if it did maybe one or two, but by standard, no, didn't have it. So that's about it. So 407 has more gadgets, so many things you can begin to enjoy inside the 407, especially if you are into such things. If you prefer a car that has modern gadgets, yeah, 407. Even though they're actually outdated now, so even though they have more gadgets, but you find out that most of those gadgets now will look to, feel very old to you compared to the newer cars. So, but the advantage 407 has over 406 is that there are a lot of aftermarket newer gadgets you can upgrade your interior with, you know, can change it completely. Unlike 406, they are very, very, in fact, they are not, you will hardly get aftermarket that you can use on 406 that is meant for 406 or that the producer produce specifically for 406. So unless you buy and construct in. But 407, they produce and considered the wiring system of the vehicle so that as you are putting it, it will also work with the vehicle system without affecting anything. So that's what I mean. So you can easily upgrade it and it will still work with your vehicle factory systems or other system in the vehicle. So 407 has that edge. 406, you hardly get such things. Anybody you see with aftermarket, maybe radio or this and that, it's not probably for that 406. They probably have to bypass one or two things for it to work. All right, so AC, number 15. Which one is better in chilling and is more durable? 406 wins here, just like it wins on the 508 comparison. 406 still has the better AC system, a more durable one. 407 does not. However, 407 AC to me is still better in terms of durability or less trouble free. I don't know. I would just say let's just leave it a bit. It's still better than the 508 in terms of trouble, but It's the 406 just better. So 407 AC. Yeah, I could meet one or two persons that have used theirs for years and didn't have much issue or didn't experience any issue. But 406 wins. I mean, 406 AC, the chilling is better compared to 407. So, better illuminated headlights. Yeah, 406 headlights, they are wonderful. The headlights are wonderful. In fact, if you use 406, if your headlights is still in good condition, you barely use the main full light. I don't even use it. You see, I could drive that car for months and probably will never have a need to even use that one, even at night. I mean, that's how. It's only when maybe you need to flash somebody that you realize that maybe you may need to use it. Their headlight is so good, so very, very bright. It goes far. But the 407, no, even the ones with new that looks very new, it's not as bright. It's not as good as that of 406. I was discussing with a man in Australia, and she brought it up. I was like, oh, I thought maybe those of us in Nigeria are the ones suffering that because by the time you guys have used the vehicle and shipped it, maybe the gloves probably are faded. He said, no, even them, they do have that experience it. And they all look for a way out. If they can find something, maybe an aftermarket like that would be much brighter, or that be able to go far, or spray on the tire so that they can see clearly. 407, I'm not saying you won't be able to see well, but when you compare to 406, 406 is much brighter. So if you're having issue seeing clearly with your beam light of 406, then there's a problem. I mean, there's a mechanical issue with your with your illumination. Either there's an impact on the front end of the vehicle that has affected the position of the headlamps, so it's no longer well. The two are no longer well positioned, or maybe they are faded, so you may need to wash or replace them. I mean, like I said, they are that good. 406, they are good. 407, not so much. Even with the xenon, still not good. Is it xenon or xenos? Okay, so moving on. Okay, 17. Which one is quicker? 406, obviously. Yeah, they all have basically the same engine, though in 406, no, in 407, there are a few engines in 406 that you will not find in 406, like the SU engines and the EW10D and which other ES9J4. You will not find it in 407. Likewise, in 406, there are some engine in 407 that you will not find in 406. So, like EW10A, EW7A, yeah, I think that's all. These two engines you will not find them in 406. But other engines, you find them in both vehicles, either this one or the other. They all share same identical engines, not even same. In terms of the other V6 engine, ES9A, ES9J4, to me, they're basically the same engine. It just it's not much different. That's why I always say they are the same. No, yes, I know that they are not identical, but they are the same. So still, even with all that, still 406 still quicker, probably because of the weight. Since 406 is lighter, so I don't know. So 406 is quicker. Okay, better road handler. No, 407 wins, as in hands down. We will compare it to 406. 407, especially the ones with the variable suspension like the V6. I mean, they are so good in terms of road handling. So they win here. Very, very enjoy. They are interesting to drive on high speed. So in fact, you enjoy them. I'm not saying you hate 406 after driving the 407, but you find that no, there's a big difference. Unless you are the type that just drive normal, you just just drive. You are not into not necessarily about speed. Some people that don't even know most of these differences. That's how to even tell a difference between how this car handles from the other. Is some don't know all those things. As long as the car moves, that's okay. So now the brakes. Yeah, 407 has better brakes than 406. Has better brakes. I'm not saying all the 407. I know at least the V6 one has a better brake setup than the 406. Yeah, I know 406. Okay, at least let's just still leave it at saloon, station wagon. Remember, all this is you are saying is about saloon and station wagon. So, not excluding the two coupe of both vehicles. So, 407 has more like a performance brake, especially the V6 compared to the 406, both the V6 and non-V6. So, yeah, if you are looking for one with a good brake, 407 will serve you better. Now, number 20, cheaper maintenance cost. 406 is much cheaper to maintain compared to 407. Now, the mechanical parts like the engine, the gearbox, basically the same. But when it comes to the electrical, the body parts, stuff like that, even the interior parts, electronics, yeah, well, electrical is still part of electrical. The 407, their parts, they cost much higher. Suspension parts, they cost much higher than that of 406. So, the 407, 406 is cheaper, much cheaper, but very much cheaper. So these days you now have a lot of fake parts in the market, so you can get 407, some 407 parts cheaper, but well, generally, um, it's as if you have more things to replace on 407 than 406. Like if you are like I mentioned on the suspension, if you are if let's assume you want to replace every component, every suspension components on 406 and the 407 in the front. Let's assume the 406 has 10 suspension components in the front. 407 may have like 25. So you see where I'm coming from. So you have to spend more on this than this. So okay, moving on. More rugged or tougher, of course, but the 406 is more rugged. The suspension is very solid. I won't say indestructible, but it lasts longer compared to that of 406. It can handle a lot of things much better and sustain harsh use than 407. Softer suspension, comfy ride. But the 406 had a soft suspension. I mean, you have to be that harsh in driving to actually feel the bumps while driving a 406. If you are driving on a rough road, if you have to, maybe if you are the type that drive very fast, you are on a street that has a rough road and you are driving very fast there, yeah, you probably may feel some of those impacts as you are jumping those bottles or those. Other than that, no, 406, the suspension is good. You hardly feel it when you are sitting inside, you know. Why? But if you drive the same, where on the 407 you feel it especially the V6. Wow, because it's sporty, it's firm, it's the way they designed it for sports, so it wasn't meant for comfort. So in terms of 407, you are going to feel everything you drive on. It matter even if it's a smooth road and you drive on, you just climb a small stone, you are going to feel it. It's a sports suspension, so it's meant to be a little bit, as speed increases, it's meant to be a little bit harder. Even when the speed reduced, it still feel more of those bumps and all that compared to the 406. So 406 has more of softer suspension. Their suspension, you feel more comfortable driving them on rough roads, stuff like that than the 407. The harsher suspension or harsher rides. Yeah, I've already talked about it. Yeah, 407 is harsher. It's harsh. Some people do complain, especially the V6 users. I know a client was complaining the other day, saying, "What can we do to make his 407 V6 more comfortable to drive? That he feels every bump he drives, every distance. If felt that was feeling very uncomfortable driving it because everything was just feeling it on the seat." I told him that's the design. Yeah, if you drive any sports car, that's how they feel. It doesn't matter whichever brand. You can drive other European cars that have that performance suspension setup. They feel that way. They were not meant for comfort. They are meant to be able to save you on high speed, keep you alive, keep you safe. So because of that, they are very harsh, so that they will be able to stay stable on high speed compared to the softer suspension that it could easily lose traction, so all that stuff. So if you're after comfort, then you may have to avoid full self. I'm talking about comfort in terms of suspension, not comfort in terms of the interior side. That's what I was saying. Okay, number 25, more tolerant electrical. 406, they're all 406. I would say the 406 is divided into two: van bus and partial CAN bus, while 407 is full CAN bus, multiplexing. So whichever electrical system of 406 you look at is still less troublesome than that of the 407. Now, don't take it the wrong way that, 407, it means that the electrical will be giving you headache all the time. No. I mean, I'm saying you could abuse a Peugeot 406 electrical and it won't give you as headache as if you do the same abuse on a 407. It won't give you the level of excessive headache the 407 will give you with the same abuse you do on the 406. That's what I'm saying. So 406 electrical, 407 electrical is more complex and sensitive. So it has more electrical connection, more sensitive electricals, more complex electricals. So if normally one or two things may break down, fix it, but if you mistakenly or intentionally abuse it, wow, it's gonna deal with you. I mean the 407. And that, like, even when you don't abuse it, for example, if the fuse box are giving you problem, the 406, the van bus system, you don't have any business replacing the fuse box unless you go and abuse it. But 407 could just one day decide, I'm tired, you give up. And instead of replacing the faulty relay on the fuse box, you'll be forced to change the entire fuse box. So that's the thing. Unlike the 406 where it's only a fuse that you have to replace, compared to the 407 that you replace entire. Though there is a 406 like the CAN bus, the partial CAN bus one that also have a fuse box that is similar to that of 406, but then in terms of cost. The 407 costs high. 407 has a complex electrical system, which will serve you without giving you nightmares, but it's less tolerant. It won't tolerate abuse. So any slight type of abuse on it is going to deal with you, even though a 406 may abuse and you deal with the person, but it's not at the degree the 407 will do to that person that abused it. So that's the point. So the dashboard, more durable dashboard. 406 dashboard lasts longer on some when pushed in or used, or especially when you jar or other not part of it. If you hitting, they crack easily. So dashboard is very much usually break. So to handle that for several that it got to that season where this will last longer. First, suspension. And yeah, I mean, generally 406 is more dependable than the 407 in terms of, like I've said, the usage for long journeys. You know, is anything going to break down? The 407, so you have to be careful. Something could hit under the car, and then you have a very big issue. The suspension is not as durable. The suspension is not even that reliable in terms of bad roads. It could be driving. One of the issues they do have is the lower ball joints. They do pull off, like one of these Asian brands. One of the models there that is notorious for pulling off the ball joint, pulling out. Yeah, 407 do that. Not at the same degree the other brands. Absorber is attached on the engine bay. There's something we call pad. I don't know. I'm trying to find the local name. They call it shock absorber pad. Or okay, shock absorber mount. The 407 own. Once it starts showing sign of weakness, don't even manage it. If you leave it, it will pull out. It will just pull out, push up your bonnet. I mean, it can be scary. So that's why I say 407 suspension you can't even manage it. 407 maybe it could be, even though it's weak, but they are so good and durable that it will take so much abuse or long usage of faulty component for it to eventually give up. It has to be that bad that you have to be somebody that does not care at all. Even if your car is pulling apart, you just keep using it. That's the only way your 407, 406 suspension could disintegrate and separate. But that of 407, once that side come, if you just give it a while, boom. Unless maybe you don't travel with the vehicle or you don't drive so much on rough roads. Yeah. So it's a car that you have to take special care. Like I said, the suspension is one of their major weaknesses. So it means you have to give it all your attention, and then know how you drive on rough road. If you are the type that speed on rough roads, even if you do it on your 406, when you call 407, you have to respect yourself, even if you think you can afford to keep replacing it every day. But like I said, if you spend half of your day all the time at the question, are you everything? Is it just about that car in your life? So 407, you have to be very mindful. However, it's a car you could drive, enjoy for years. You may not even experience all these things, or some of these weaknesses I mentioned, by applying preventative maintenance, by using the car. Don't use it as harsh as a 406 would do than 406. It can serve you. But yeah, you can't get from 406. So, so if you, but at least if you have that in mind, you'll be able to, take care. So these are the strengths and weaknesses of 406 and the 407. The D9, 406. So I know there are a lot of things. There are also a lot of strengths 407 have on 406, but there's no point listing out everything. There are so many of them. I think these are the major ones one could focus on in case you are among the ones that is, considering any of these two vehicles, which one to go for. If you are buying, at least this should be your area of focus. What things to do to avoid having some of these issues. Okay, that's all.